You're just out doing your job when you receive a distress call deep in space, and your team is the closest one to it. However, when you arrive, there's no one else on board. We start things off with the salvage team investigating an old wrecked satellite about to enter a planet's orbit. Finding nothing of real use inside it, they use an advanced piece of tech called the analyzer to disintegrate it completely, so it doesn't cause any issues for the planet. They then make their way back to their ship called the Corona. Damn, even in space you can't escape it. Inside, we hear them being asked to go to a nearby asteroid field to help with another group there. They decline, telling command they just want to head on home, as they've been out for far too long. As they're getting ready for their trip back, they receive an emergency distress signal coming from deep in space. One of the crew members, Miguel, says they should just ignore it and let the rescue guys handle it. Heinz smacks him on the back of the head, stating that if they're found out to have ignored a distress call, they'll get suspended and never be able to work on a ship again. The crew navigator, Aoshima, tracks the location of the distress call to somewhere in the Sargosa Quadrant, also known as the Graveyard of Space. Spooky. This area is dangerous due to its strong magnetic fields. The captain then orders them to change course and go after the distress call. As they enter the quadrant, they find the remains of hundreds of wrecked ships. Aoshima then gets a lock on where the distress signal is coming from, and we see this absolutely massive ship which looks like a space station, orbited by debris. The two engineers, Heinz and Miguel, begin their rescue mission. As they make their way inside, they find out that the air vents for the ship are still pumping through fresh oxygen, and their entry point is actually an elevator which starts to bring them down. As the elevator brings them down, the ship's artificial gravity starts affecting them, which, after being in space for so long, is a bit rough for Miguel. They reach the bottom floor and the doors to the elevator begin to open, and they both get ready for whatever might be waiting for them on the other side. Heinz rounds the corner, finding a fully furnished, opulent, and antique interior, like something straight out of the Victorian era. They look around for a bit, finding no signs of life at all, when, in the main hall, they see a massive tapestry of a woman. They assume she must be the owner of the ship. Miguel then sees something out of the corner of his eyes. The very same woman in a meadow of what seems to be outside. Miguel runs over, telling Heinz he saw a woman. He trips through the glass door before again seeing her. She then vanishes and he tries to run after her, crashing into the wall of the room. Heinz then mocks him, asking him if he's ever seen a hologram before, then asking him if he really did see a woman.
いや、風に吹かれて消えちまった。
Suddenly, this creepy angel baby statue cruises up to Heinz, telling him that lunch is now served. They make their way to the room and find a full-course dinner setup. Miguel makes himself at home, unscrewing the wine and pouring himself a drink, then quickly finding out that it's all fake. The wine tastes horrid and the food is all plastic. As they continue to look around, they end up finding a few rooms that seemingly belong to the woman. However, anything they touch quickly starts to decay and disintegrate. Exploring further, inside a trophy room, they discover that the ship belongs to a woman named Eva Friedel, and that she was once a famous opera singer. As they continue to look around, they're asked by the captain to pick up the pace on finding the source of the signal, as the magnetic fields in the area are starting to pick up. And so, they decide on the great and amazing idea of splitting up to search for clues. Miguel going up and Heinz going down. As Heinz makes his way down one of the hallways, he suddenly spots a young child falling through the ceiling into the floor below. Upon running over, all he finds is the chandelier swinging. Elsewhere, as Miguel continues on, the pathway slowly becomes more dilapidated. Aoshima then informs them more about Eva, saying that she was born into nobility and has been a famous little opera singer since she was young. She was known as the diva of the century. She then fell in love with a fellow star known as Carlo. However, their relationship didn't last long, as she had apparently lost the voice that made her so famous, and then shortly before their wedding, Carlo was murdered, with the culprit never being found. The captain then declares that the magnetic field is getting too strong and he's cutting the cord on this mission. Miguel then stumbles into a huge and cavernous slime-ridden chamber, where he trips and falls down into the goop below. He then sees a piano, which is playing all by itself. He then recognizes the notes that are playing are the same notes that they heard in the distress signal. As he walks up to it, he goes to press on a key, when they all slam and his surroundings transform into that of some kind of royal estate. Eva suddenly runs up to him and starts kissing him, calling him Carlo. We then cut to Heinz, demanding to know what Miguel is doing and what's going on, whilst going up some kind of elevator, which reaches its final floor. Heinz then finds himself on a theater stage, with an audience applauding him. He then sees Eva with her back turned. As he walks up to her, she suddenly stabs him. Heinz falls back onto the floor, seemingly paralyzed. He then begins to relive a memory of his life with his family, particularly involving his daughter, Emily, in which he bought her a spacesuit and tells her that on his next trip, she can come with him. In the memory, a short time later, he is having breakfast with his family, when the flowers begin to shift into that of a rose. This causes him to jump back, and then instead of seeing his wife, he sees Eva, who informs him that he will never leave. Heinz suddenly snaps back to reality, and we see that what his memories initially were are actually just some form of white organic resin, which made the illusion cast over him seem real. He grabs his gun and shoots the scene to pieces, but can't manage to shoot the representation of his daughter. He gets in contact with the ship, and they inform him that they haven't been able to contact Miguel for at least the last 30 minutes. They've heard him talking, but he hasn't responded to them once. Heinz then rushes to save Miguel, getting attacked by those creepy little statues along the way, which he manages to take out. He then finds the room Miguel fell into, and finds him slow dancing in the dark with no one. Heinz tries to run over to him, but debris starts falling from above or rising from below to block his path. And we see that Miguel has been completely seduced by Eva into thinking that he himself is Carlo, and despite his best efforts, Heinz isn't able to break him out of it. Eva then confronts Heinz directly, where it's revealed that she murdered the real Carlo, as he was about to back out of their marriage, and she is now forcing any who enter her domain to live as Carlo in any way she deems fit, and they will now live as the Carlo she always had in her mind. Heinz then begins to shoot at her, and she says she will now show him something. She then raises a house from the floor, which he realizes is his own house and that this is another memory. His daughter then walks out, saying that she is going to help him fix the roof because she is a spaceman too. In terror, Heinz tells her to stay back, but she continues to climb the roof, before tripping and falling off it into the darkness below. Eva then almost convinces Heinz to join her, saying he will finally be reunited with his dead daughter, which is a pretty good selling point. But as he goes to join Eva, he stumbles over his wallet that has a picture of his daughter and his wife. Managing to snap out of the illusion, holding his dead daughter in his arms, he tells Eva that memories aren't an escape before shooting her. And we see that underneath the illusion of Eva is simply a robot figure with a human hologram projected on it. Back on the Corona, we see that the captain and Aoshima are really struggling against the increasingly powerful magnetic field emanating from the massive ship, which is pulling parts off and crashing debris into them. In their desperation, they prepare to fire the analyzer at the ship. Back inside the ship, a light begins to go high into the ceiling, and Heinz realizes that it's the ship's massive supercomputer, having gone mad, which must be the reason why all this has been happening. He then shoots at it a few times before the crew and the Corona fire the analyzer, which tears an absolute massive hole in the ship. Heinz begins to get violently sucked into space along with various other victims from Eva over the many years that the ship has been sending out SOS signals. Eva then hauntingly sings to a conjured audience, and Heinz is launched out into space, and we see that due to the magnetic strength of the ship, the Corona and other pieces of debris were crushed into it. We then see the remains of the actual, original Eva, while hearing Miguel romantically converse with the robot counterpart. We end panning out on the massive ship, which due to its sheer magnetic power has sucked in most of the wrecked ships from the so-called ship graveyard, forming into the shape of a rose. We then see Heinz, still alive, drifting alone through deep space. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. It only takes a second and it really helps me out.